So this morning, our moderator for the webinar is Terry Taxon, who works for the LMMA network. And so she will introduce our speakers and she will lead us in our session this morning. So once again, welcome everyone to our CBFM Masterclass webinar. So without further ado, I now pass the floor to Terry to take us through with our Masterclass webinar.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Ivory, for that brief introduction. My name is Terry Texan. I live in Suva, Fiji, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar on networking for CBFM. We will have a chance for questions and answers at the end of the session. So you can save them for then, save the questions for then, or you can type them in the chat box as we go along, and we will get to them during the Q&A. I'll just quickly tell you who our three speakers are for today, and then let them go into further detail about what they do for work and what they do for community-based fisheries management and networking. We have Grace Orirana. She lives in Honiara, and she is from the Solomon Islands. She works for the World Fish Center. We have Watisoni Lalavanua. He lives in New Caledonia, but he is from Fiji, and he works for the Pacific Community, or SPC. Then finally, we have Tracy Boslogo. She lives in New Ireland Province. She is from Papua New Guinea, and she works for the Wildlife Conservation Society, or WCS. However, she's running late today, so she will join us as soon as she can. But we're not going to wait for her. We're just going to go ahead. So we will now move on to our first discussion, starting with Grace. Please, can you describe what you do for work? And then briefly, can you talk about your experience with networks and community-based fisheries management? Over to you, Grace. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry, and good morning, everyone. Hope you can hear me clearly. Sorry you can't see my face. I have bad internet this end, but I'll try my best to share what I have here. I actually have a PowerPoint presentation, so I'll try to share that. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so as Terry mentioned, I worked for Worldfish, and currently my role is I lead the in-country project Pathways to Project, which focuses on scaling up CBFM here in the Solomon Islands, as well as looking at scaling at the regional level. For Worldfish, our main program here in the Solomons is more focused on implementing CBRM or CBFM. So we are looking at like researches that looks at what types of tools or approaches or methodologies that we could use to scale up CBFM in a more effective way and more cost-effective ways here in places that are more geographically spread, such as Solomon Islands. Previously, I also worked with the Ministry of Fisheries as a seconded staff to the community-based resource management section there, and my role there was working as a networking officer. So I helped to lead the coordination and establishment of our current Solomon Islands National CBRM Partners Network, which it's quite new. We just started in 2023. In terms of networks here in the Solomons, previously, we do have a network which is called the Solomon Islands Locally Managed Marine Areas Network. So in short, it's SILMA, and it was established in 2003. Actually, it was the longest serving network that focuses on like CBFM. Yeah, so it has NGOs, government ministries, and projects who focuses more on management on conservation here in the Solomon Islands, and it does operate like a body on its own. Yeah? So it has full-time staff to manage that network. However, when funding ends, the network also stops because the government could not absorb the role the network plays here in the Solomons. So yeah, um, and currently we have the network that I mentioned earlier, the National CBRM Partners Network. So it was a learning from the previous one actually. So like learning from how what we could improve from the previous network. So the process that we actually go through to establish this network was like mapping the CBRM partners or stakeholders that are mainly based here in Honiara. So we decided that we could only, maybe we just start here with those of us who are based here in Honiara, uh, and see how we can go from there. So we map out the like which organizations are implementing CBRM in the country, and they are based, the offices are based here in Honiara. Um, and that work was led by the Minister of Fisheries as well as the Minister of Environment. And after that, we just send invite and organize a first meeting to discuss and see what the other partners think if of having that such kind of network. And I think all of us agreed that it's really good to come together as a group because we are all trying to achieve the same goal, yeah? Trying to manage the resources and assist our communities to be better manage their resources for the future and now. Um, and what we actually, during the meetings that we had for this current network, it's I think the main thing is agreeing on what the goal of the network should be, uh, because we understand that if we could all understand what the goal of the network is, then that means we will all take ownership of what the network is trying to achieve. Yeah? And also we try to understand why there is a need for us to come together and form the network, because like here we have a lot of different NGOs working, so we know that it's important for us to come together as well as sharing updates and lessons and tools and approaches that we use to try and reach more communities in our country. I think that's all for the first question, Terry. I'll stop sharing first my screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that great presentation. I'll move on to Watisoni now. Can you describe what you guys are doing at SPC and kind of your role and how you're working with networking for CBFM? Thank you, Soni.
Thank you, Terry, and Bulavinaka to everyone who are listening in to this webinar, joining us from the different corners of the Pacific, acknowledging where you are joining this webinar from. And thanks also to the organizers of the webinar that are able to put together this webinar, especially on these important topics of networking. Because as mentioned initially by Ivory, that this is something that is aligned to the Pacific Framework for Actions that guides the scaling of community-based fisheries management work in the region, which is something that was highly recognized by the fisheries ministers back in 2021, and with the support of the leaders last year to extend the framework again to another 5 years. And one of the important components of scaling up CBFM, based on lessons learned from past decades, is that networking is an important, is one of the tools or one of the approaches that assists scale community-based fisheries in the region. So our role at SPC is to oversee or coordinate the implementation of the framework as endorsed by the fisheries ministers and recognized and supported by the leaders. So part of that is to support our members, which is government ministries, and also the stakeholders, NGOs, civil society organizations, the public sector or the private sector, in working together to support the scaling of CBFM. In terms of networking at the regional level that we are engaged in, which is it could be different in terms of approaches and the kind of the core activities compared to networking at national and also subnational level. One is that when we talk about coastal fisheries management in the Pacific, it cannot be managed alone by our national fisheries agencies or other relevant agencies such as environment or lands. It has to be managed together with the local communities and also other partners that are also there working on this area in this field. So we have this regional forum that is called the Community-Based Fisheries Dialogue. This is an annual event that brings together civil society organization and other non-state actors that are involved on community-based fisheries. It is for them to come together and share lessons learned, knowledge and experiences, and also provide advice on the management of coastal fisheries from their perspective as a civil society organization and communities, and providing those advice to the fisheries, to the heads of fisheries and to the fisheries ministers. This is one of a very critical component of our work in making sure that CBFM practitioners outside of government agencies are still networking, are talking to each other. So we usually organize this community-based fisheries dialogue every year. And not only that, this platform or this mechanism, it's a mechanism that is supported also by the fisheries ministers and also something that the leaders have tasked SPC to make sure that continues to implement this platform, because it is an opportunity where local communities, civil society organization contributes in influencing or advising decision makers and policy changes at the regional level. So bringing that group of civil society organization and communities into the discussions. The other part of work that we also doing at SPC is that sometimes we also assist cross-learning exchange between countries. This is to help strengthen the networking between countries or among countries. For example, a cross-learning exchange that did, I think 2 years ago, was that between Tonga and Fiji. Tonga was working on their special management area, and they really want to learn from Fiji on how they do networking. So because we at SPC, we understand what's happening in different countries and what kind of networking in terms of community-based fisheries networking happening in different countries. So we link the countries based on their needs. So because Tonga wants to learn from community networking and how local communities work together to manage resources, so we link them to the Fiji locally managed marine area network, which sends one of their rep to Tonga to enlighten the communities. And it's a very powerful mode of exchange when communities talk to other communities, when implementers on the ground talk to other implementers on the ground in different countries. So it's very powerful. Networking also at the regional level, what I've seen from my experience, due to the networking and the social media, the different kind of platforms that we have, practitioners are using those because it's more cost effective. Say, for example, WhatsApp, Messenger, Viber. I've been joining more than a dozen CBFM networking group through WhatsApp, through Viber, and this helps sharing of information. If there are any news coming at the regional level on community-based fisheries, or any workshop is coming up, or like, for example, this webinar, we always share it on those different modes of communications. And then people within those groups share it with their own networks that they are joining in. So it's more like sharing of informations to the CBFM practitioners in the region, and also informing them of any upcoming regional or global events. We also have this level of networking at the regional level where it's amongst project leads, where it's among projects. Like, for example, because my role at SPC is to kind of coordinate community-based fisheries work in the region. So it is important for us at SPC to understand who is working where in which country and what work that they are doing, so that we coordinate and support each other, because we are all working together in implementing the framework. And that's the document that guides the different projects in the region. So that's another level of networking where the different projects talk to each other and share their lessons learned, share their ideas. This is how we do this project in Marshall Islands, in Palau. This is how we do it in PNG or in Fiji. So we, as a project implementers or project leads, we talk to each other to avoid duplication, and also to avoid being focused on one particular region or one particular country, but we share projects when we have opportunities to talk to donors and other international development partners that would like to invest on community. So networking from the regional level is something that is really very supportive in terms of scaling community-based fisheries. Terry.
Thank you, Watisani. Thank you, Grace. Our third speaker hasn't joined yet. Sorry, guys, but we're just going to continue. Grace, thank you for some key takeaway points from there. That learning from the Silma network, and how you guys are just starting with some basics, like stakeholder mapping, and making sure you include all the government agencies. That's very useful. And then another thing I think that resonated with me is that all the stakeholders involved are trying to come together to agree on the goal of the network so that you guys can take ownership. I think these are some good basics to start for a good network. Watisani, thank you. Some key takeaway points from that. I think the regional recognition of the importance of networking, and also you guys promoting it at a national level, subnational level, and also how useful these learning exchanges are. Thank you, SBC, for contributing in that sense. I think now that all the countries know, I think you'll be getting more requests for some country exchanges. And also, I think everyone, for you to take away is technology is useful for networking. It's good to hear also that project leads also have their networking, and you guys are in communication. That's really good to hear that. And it's not just practitioners, but also communities. I have a message here that Tracy has just joined us. Welcome, Tracy. No pressure, but you're up next. If you could just check in and just introduce yourself, and tell us what you guys are doing there at WCS in PNG, and how you guys are working with networks for CBFM. Tracy, thanks for joining us. Over to you now. Tracy, can you hear us? We can see you online.
Yeah, finally.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I know it must be stressful. All right, go ahead.
Sorry, come again. I didn't hear what you said before.
Yeah, oh, just welcome. Yeah, welcome, and just introduce yourself. We've gone through the first question on what you do at your organization, what WCS is doing in terms of CBFM, and how you guys are working with networking for CBFM to promote scaling of CBFM.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Thank you. Morning, everyone, again. I'm just gonna pull up something here. So I'm trying to look. Yeah. So okay. So my name is Tracy Boslogo, and I'm currently working as Marine Conservation Officer with WCS Wildlife Conservation Society here in New Ireland province in Papua New Guinea. So our work started off with trying to work with local communities, assisting them with community-based fisheries management, but this was mainly based of science. And the thing was that we were only concentrated in 13 communities, so we assisted with developing management plans for them. But then there was requests from other communities as well. So that was when we initiated this the network. So LMMA network meeting started in 2021, and that's when we gathered local communities, mainly those who were interested individuals, and we also had appointment from other partners, and these were mainly known as community champions because they have started initiating their own management at the local level for not only fisheries but any other, like considering other effective management strategies that they utilize to managing marine resources. They've also um, for like mangroves and stuff. So that was when we brought everybody together and had them share amongst themselves their experiences with fisheries management at the levels. You know, Papua New Guinea is very diverse. Even in a province, there's diversity in languages, culture. So that was when we had to have people share amongst themselves what they did, and this is inclusive of the communities that WCS worked with as well. So we managed to have around 20 plus communities in the first meetings. We've had other meetings since then up till last year 2024. We had the fifth meeting, but in between the meetings we have created like WhatsApp groups, so that's where these people connect and communicate, so they share again what they've learned during their experiences from sharing with each other at the annual LMMA network meetings that was organized by WCS. And with the WhatsApp group, they share what they have done after the meeting. So this has also assisted them with continuing the work as a network outside of having that meeting set up. Yeah, I think that's about it. If anyone else have questions after all this, then I can, yeah, come in.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Thank you for that. I think the key takeaway from there is that people need to be interested, right? Communities need to have the interest first because then they take ownership. It's their resources, so therefore it's their rules. And bringing these people together, I think you mentioned diversity as a challenge, but I think also as a strength, right? So people can learn from each other in different situations. And also to reiterate what Isoni said is technology, it's useful, creating WhatsApp groups to connect people. So we'll go on to our second round of discussion. This time we'll start with Grace again. So how are networks used to spread CBFM, do you think? And what are some challenges you have faced with this working with CBFM and networking in the Solomon Islands? Thank you, Grace.
Thanks, Terry. I'll share my screen again. Okay, so how are networks used for scaling up CBFM? Yeah? So actually networks is a great idea in platform, yeah, for us to use, especially for coordination and collaboration when we have different partners and stakeholders who are working in the same space as, like the fisheries space. Uh, it's really a good place to share ideas, information, tools, and lessons learned, um, as well as in our case here in the Solomons, like sharing of resources, funds, for example, funding meetings, for example, or in kind, staff from the ministry, as well as from other NGOs, co-sharing and going together on a field trip, for example. Yeah? Also, it's a place that we could like use to update each other on current and proposed CBFM projects, as that can help us to avoid like focuses like all the, for example, NGOs working in the same province or duplicating what each other is doing. So it's a kind of it's really a good place for us to collaborate and coordinate, and it helps us to strive towards having more effective CBFM program in country. However, there are challenges too when we use networks to scale up CBFM. Yeah? So I think, like for the case here in the Solomons, the main one is how we could sustain those networks. Yeah, and this is really a challenge when, for example, if the network is mainly coordinated or funded by projects, because when these projects ends, the network also dies out. Yeah, so that's the main challenge that we see when we try to use networks to scale CBFM. Uh, Another challenge that we see here is, for instance, when the network is imposed on Asia, just to meet global or regional goals, because it's something that we just want to form in order to meet a certain target. So it's not something that we owned, and the government could not like fund such a network because it's not what they have in their work plans at the ministry, for example. So it's really a challenge when we try to use networks to set up networks that are not actually the focus of the government, I would say. Uh, and one of the main ones too is the lack of active coordination. Uh, this could be seen as not important, but it is really important. Even though we have a network, but if we do not have an active coordination, it's really hard to keep these networks working. So yeah, what we are trying to do now with the current network that we have is like, as I mentioned earlier, we try to learn from what Silma did. Yeah, like okay, so why did it fail? It was a really good network, but it doesn't manage to survive till now. So we try to look at what are some of the things that we could learn from that network and build on from there. Also, what is different now for us in terms of the network that we have now is like the network is it is specified in our current CBRM strategy. So it's not something that someone from outside comes in and imposed on us, or it's not a project focused or operated. So it's something that the government has in the strategy. So we have to take ownership of it and make sure that it works. So like having those government line ministries uh, taking the lead in establishing the network is really the important step in what we are doing differently now. So we are still struggling though, but I think we are, for me, I see it as we are in the right direction when these two ministries take ownership of it and actually take the lead in trying to coordinate the network. So again, also we are like we don't really go down to the provincial level yet or the subnational. We are only focusing here in Honiara first and see what we could uh, do here, and maybe we could learn from what we have here and then scale out to the province. So yeah, because it's easy to communicate and coordinate when we have just those here in Honiara. Also, one of the things that we learned from the previous network is like when we have certain fees attached to becoming a member of a network, it's kind of difficult for some partners, especially if the fee is a bit high. So I think we started by just saying that you can join as long as you are doing something on CBFM in the country and you are based here in Honiara, then you are welcome to join the network. Yeah, so it's like a free membership and sharing of meeting expenses by partners too is one of the things that we are doing differently now, like not just waiting for the two ministries to organize or fund the meetings, but when a partner has some funding to help, they can just inform the two ministries, oh, we have some funding here, we can use that for our next meeting. So yeah, I think just those are some of the things that we are doing differently now in terms of how we could try to use networks to scale up CBFM, yeah, in the Solomon Islands. Yeah, thanks, Terry. That's for that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Some very useful information there, and learning from Silma's history. I think one of the key things would be the coordination, right? It's the usefulness of networks and coordinating. We all know that coastal fisheries and especially CBFM is chronically underfunded. So just coordinating between stakeholders so we can share resources. And another one, I think how networking, you do need some active coordination. People to be involved and committed to this networking, to believe that the network will work. And getting the government line ministry involved, I think also that's a good key takeaway, amongst other good key takeaways. I'll hand it over now to Watisoni. From your context, how are networks used to spread CBFM, and what are some of the challenges, please, you have faced in this? Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you. Thanks, Terry. Before I dive into the questions, is that just to provide a bit of context in here in the Pacific, what we've seen from SPC after been working with the CBFM practitioners on the ground at regional level, national level, and also subnational, after bringing the region together with 2 regional workshops for the past 5 years and a few sub-regional workshops or country meetings. What we can say that the region has long experience of different types of networks. We have traditional networks, which indigenous group have always had with regards to their tribe, to their stakeholders. And also we have informal networks, which may not have the official roles and responsibility, but they operate on an informal basis. And then apart from that, then the third grouping is that we have some kind of formal networks which have been legally registered, or they need to follow common guidelines and that. And also the initiator of these different kind of networks are different. Some may be initiated because they have a certain fishery that they would like to address, say mud crab or sea cucumber, then they form that network. And also it is formed in different scale. We're having examples of national level networking, which Grace is talking about, that they're trying to revive the Solomon Island network after learning from Silma before going down to provincial level. We also have a regional level network, even subnational level network. So it happens in those different level with different modes. But from the CBFM perspective, after observing what's happening in the region in terms of networking, and also with the long experience that we have had all come through together, in terms of scaling community-based network are effective for sharing feedback and also informations and lessons between communities, amongst governments, and also with other fisheries stakeholders. Networking also, we've seen that networking also empower local communities to contribute into decision-making process, because yeah, as we know, individual voice might be not that strong, but when they come together as a group, when they come together as a community with a common goal, with a common objective, their voice is much stronger and well represented when it comes to decision making or informing policy, or even raise their concerns to the appropriate agency to address them, or to work with them in addressing it. The other thing that we observe from the region, based on the different kind of networking being formed at national or subnational level, or even at the regional level, is that when we have cross-sectoral collaborations, like for example, if I remember, when we used to have this meeting back in Fiji, when I was still in Fiji, when we used to have this meeting, this network called the Flemmer network, when we have the meetings, it's not only fisheries or people working with fisheries, but we also have other relevant ministries which also participated on those discussions. And I think it's also happening in other countries. This kind of cross-sectoral collaboration also help address issues or threats that are beyond local communities, that they cannot address it themselves. Say, for example, if we in a networking group, then we have people coming from forestry or from agriculture. And if local communities in the coastal area are sharing within that groups, within that network issue about agriculture, and which is something that cannot be addressed by fisheries, having this cross-sectoral collaboration within the network helps raise those concerns and address those issues. And as I mentioned, also it's amplify community voices and build solidarity. But when addressing the second part of the question in terms of challenges, what we also learn is that sometimes networking can be uneven in terms of participation. There might be some stakeholders who will not be able to participate because they don't have the resources to connect, or they don't have the resources to reach those places of meetings. So these are things that could limit some of the voices within the society. But always trying to make sure that everyone is included, everyone is heard in terms of discussion and decision making sometimes can be a challenge. The other one, I think it was raised by Grace as well. It's something that we also can agree to it at the regional level, is that sustaining networks. Sometimes networks are there because projects are there. They have fund meetings, fund discussions. So when project ends, the network also ends. So that is a lesson learned for us in the Pacific. How can we move away from project-driven networking by finding cost-effective ways of establishing networks that can sustain after projects. So that's more looking at our strength in our more informal kind of networking. The other one is balancing the voice. One of the challenges, like for example, I said earlier in my earlier intervention that SPC is a secretariat to a regional mechanism where the leaders would like to also provide opportunities to hear from civil society organization and other non-state actors, including local communities, in terms of providing advice for coastal fisheries management. And SPC is a secretariat to that group. So because SPC is a member-driven organization, it's my role to make sure there's a balance in the voice that are taken up to the fisheries ministers and also to the leaders, because we are the contact person to the ministers and to the leaders for them to hear what are the fisheries status or challenges or lessons or advice. We have to make sure that we balance those views by taking both views from government and also views from our stakeholders like civil society, CBFM practitioners, to make sure that those views are also going up there. And it sometimes can be challenging in trying to balance those views, Terry.
Thank you, Watisani. I think we're hearing some recurring themes here from our expert speakers. Coordination, one of them. Thank you for giving that background on the different types of networks. I think that's very important. And the importance of empowering communities and getting them representation to raise their voice in the right spaces to help them contribute to decision making. Some of the challenges you touched on was there could be some problems with uneven in participation, and that sustaining networks is a challenge. But it's good that we're coming up with solutions here. And feel free, if you have any solutions, the audience, please share those as well. Let's hand it over to Tracy now. How are networks used to spread CBFM in New Ireland Province? And what are some challenges you guys have faced? Over to you, Tracy. Hi, Tracy, are you there? Maybe you're on mute if you're talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Hello.
go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was saying that for the case of New Ireland, here we're more like the purpose of this network was mainly to bring people together, like I've briefly mentioned in the answering the first question. Like we had to bring various stakeholders from community level to provincial fisheries offices and other partners so they can meet together, even on the platform that was set, the WhatsApp group, so they can share the experiences with community-based fisheries management at their level. So it was like a space where people of different, like with different experiences and expertise, like from community to government and other partners like CBOs and NGOs, share what they do. In its We initiated it in New Ireland province, but we had to also share that with other provinces. So they also found it very interesting because not many people realized what CBFM is in PNG. So this work has been like rolled out mainly in New Island, and a lot of people have, through this network, have come to realize, traditional management, and acknowledge that that is um, maybe way forward for local communities, especially to manage their fisheries. So this has the network has actually like created an area where people come together and share amongst themselves. But like we said, having the challenges now with this is I totally agree with what Grace mentioned about um, the sustainability of the network, because at the moment the network's been driven by projects. So like right now we're going towards the end of the project, and yeah, it's kind of um, yeah, not very active. The initial idea was to get government to actually lead, but yeah, there's still challenges where it is right now. So um, I would agree with Grace's first and second points about like sustainability of network and getting government to actually lead or facilitate some of this work with networking, especially. One of the main challenges also with the network here is communication. So, like I said, we have a WhatsApp platform that's available for people to communicate with, but not everyone everywhere around the province is has communication network coverage in their area. So that's also a very big challenge for us. And with also getting people to um, meetings and trying to communicate is hard. Having like also the setting geographically, it's hard to you know have people of the next community, because these are mostly islands, so it's difficult for people if they're doing like exchange programs. These are their own organized activities, but it's difficult if they are not funded, because they would not have enough to go around and communicate with each other and continue the network at their level. So having the difficulty with the settings of their communities, that's difficult also. And like everyone else is saying, resources, or like financially enabling like people from the next community to reach out, and using the existing network like church activities, they could use that to talk about CBFM and share within the programs. But then they need resources. They need some finance to assist with that. For I'm talking um, especially like we have these the community champions, and they're the ones who are very active in doing it. They have always been um, they have always been communicating by themselves, but this is like at the level at the um, as community champions. But yeah, they would need some form of financial support to do that and expand the network within the province. Um, yeah, I think that's
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. I just want to bring up 2 points that you made. I think kind of like not maybe the revival of traditional management, but the sharing, the importance of sharing, that people are still practicing this traditional management is inspiring, and important for us to make sure that we're preserving and using our traditional management methods. And another one, I think, something that we take for granted living in our more urban settings is some of our countries are still very rural. The setting's very rural setting, with network issues, but also transportation issues can be very expensive. So thank you for highlighting that. We'll go on to our third discussion. And we'll start with Watisoni, please. So in your opinion, what would be the most valuable lesson that you wish to share with others who want to start a network for CBFM? Thank you, Soni.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, I was looking at the questions. I felt that our two other guest speaker, who's actually doing the networking work on the ground, which is Tracy and Grace, will have more insights on this. But I'd just like to share what we managed to capture in the region after learning from what's happening in the different Pacific Island countries and territories. Yeah? So in terms of lessons learned, as I mentioned before, networks are very powerful enablers to scale community-based fisheries. Because if it's planned well, if it's well established, in a more cost-effective way, it can be sustained because it is effective for sharing feedback, for informations, lessons between communities, government, and other and other stakeholders. Eh? As I mentioned also in my first intervention, is that to have this kind of network, especially community networks, that helps work with each other, they will be able to have a powerful voice in contributing to decision making. So those are the lessons learned. Eh? I would like to give an example of that happened in the region. Back in 2015, the region was called together to come up with a regional strategy on a regional policy on managing coastal fisheries. When the region comes together, because we have community networks, we have community practitioners that have already been working together. They were also part of that consultation back in 2015, which helped put together what we call now the new song or the no mess strategy. And if you look at that policy, it does talk strongly about community-based fisheries management. It does mention that coastal fisheries management in the Pacific, it has to be underpinned by community-led approaches because of the way we utilize and the way we manage our resource. And bringing those local voices into the regional platform, regional meetings, regional discussion helps influence those. And that's through network because we know people doing work on the ground and we bring the right people to come to the table and share their voice and also share their concerns. And not only that, but also part of developing solutions that solutions are developed by the Pacific and for the Pacific, and not someone else outside coming in and telling us what needs to be done with coastal fisheries when we know how it should be done, and we just need to work together and coordinate on how to manage it. And that's through this kind of networking. And it's also a valuable way of coordination. As I mentioned in one of my example, networkings are happening at CBFM at national, provincial, subnational level, but we also having our own networking as project implementers in the region. We talk to each other, we share informations, so that it also help us to plan and manage CBFM in a way that we make sure that we are able to implement it effectively, especially when we are in this constraint of budget, that we cannot have all the budget to do the work for all of our communities, but having this kind of networking help us to coordinate. I think I also mentioned on my last intervention, networking also support broader ecosystem management. As we know, managing coastal fisheries, it's not only about managing the fisheries, there are other surrounding environments that we need to manage, but sometimes it's beyond local communities' control. It beyond the fisheries agency's mandate. So having networkings with other cross-sectoral ministries or agencies will help address some of these issues that our local communities have been raising for ages, and sometimes some of them are overdue now that needs to be addressed. But having those kind of cross-sectoral networking is very powerful. Variety and diversity of network also is one of the lessons learned, which, as I mentioned, network range from traditional, informal, formal, and the legally registered one. So depending on the context, depending on the lessons learned, as mentioned by Grace, they are learning from what happens with their past network. now they're trying to revamp that network by learning from it. So different countries will have their own different way of establishing networks. The other thing also that is important for us in terms of challenges that we see is that sometimes if funding to at least establish or start this kind of networks to help motivate others to establish this kind of networks can be sometimes a challenge as well on that. Lastly, before I hand over the floor back to you, Terry, is that what we've learned also from the region, this is something that we were able to capture from our workshop last year when it comes to discussion about networking. For network to be sustained, one of the lessons learned, and I think did mention my Grace in the beginning, it's that the ownership, and it should be aligned with local needs. So it should be coming from the local people that, yes, this is something important for us. We need to do a networking because of this. We need to, because so that they can drive it, so that it can be sustained. And if networking, establishing network coming from an outside perspective, telling us or telling the communities or telling people at national or subnational level to develop network, it might not be, it might work on that short period of time. But when those that triggers or implement or started initiate those network, when it's finished, it's kind of not cannot be sustained. So it is important to be locally driven and to align with local needs. It has to have a clear vision and a clear objective. Sometimes it needs to have clear membership criteria and making sure that it doesn't like Grace or have mentioned, it's like if we put membership fee like that, it sometimes might stop other people or other important stakeholders to join networking. So we really need to be careful on how membership criteria and also the roles of the network and how it should function. Networking, I think it mentioned by one of the two ladies, it's more about coordination. Coordination is an important part of networking. The lessons learned is that we don't need a director or a manager to lead the networking. We need a person there that have a very good coordination that can coordinate things, because it's an operational kind of system where people need to work together and implement activities. So we need someone there that can do better coordination, either at national or at a subnational level. My other last advice in here is that we already have a lot of networks in the region, especially if you're talking about community-based fisheries networking. So the question is whether we are working at regional level or whether we are working at national level or at subnational level. I think the question is, before establishing network, do we really need to establish another new network? Or is there already existing network that we can just work together and tag along, provided if their objective, if their goal is aligned with what we are trying to do, especially in raising community voices. So those are the things that we need to learn from, especially to countries who would like to move into establishing networks. Get in touch with other countries that has already have and try to learn from them. I can see on the participant that are joining us. We have some people that are joining us here who have experience on networking in Fiji, in Hawaii. The two here that are guest speaker in Solomon Islands and also in PNG. So these are our own networking within the CBFM practitioners that we've already created, is that we can learn from them before creating new networks or before establishing networks within our own country or within our own communities. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Sonny. Some good lessons there. I'll hand it over to Tracy now. In your opinion, what are some valuable lessons you wish to share with others who want to start a network for CBFM? Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Terry. I think for myself, I probably have only 2 points that I would want to mention here as giving my opinion on the topic. So I agree with Sonny about creating a network with interest from the community. Or they yeah I think that it is very important that the initiative should come from the community and not from the government or anyone else, because they have to, like everyone else is saying, take ownership of this network. And if, like, we're talking about sustainability is going to happen only if the community takes lead of this. So if the people who want to be involved in a network to talk about certain important issues and see where they can settle these or minimize these, come together and share. So it has to actually come from the community or from interested people. They have to agree to set that up, that network, and yeah, and go forward with it. And yeah, I think that's the main thing that really should be way forward for the work that we're doing also. And like Sonny mentioned, we don't need to create any other networks if there's already existing network on the ground. Like, we're talking about community-based fisheries management here, but within its community there's already network um, established on the ground. And for New Island, like, we have like government networks, local community government networks that have been already established on the ground, and these should be utilized at that level. And I think it's going to work if if network is um, communicated using the already existing ones on the ground. Yeah, and just so through this network, we can just communicate community-based fisheries. Like I've already mentioned with the networking that has happened in New Ireland, we've already people have realized that they need to continue utilizing, um, practicing their local, traditional management at their level. So this networking at their level could also happen that way. So just, yeah, I only have 2 points. First, like summarizing it, first is it has to come from community interest, and second is we have to use existing networks. Thank you, Terry.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. And now finally over to Grace. Um, what are some valuable lessons you wish to share with us and others that may want to start a network for CBFM? Thanks, Grace.
Thanks, Terry. So from me, I think most of our first two speakers have shared very valuable points there. But from myself, I think the first thing I would say is like maintaining contact is very important for keeping the momentum. Yeah? This could be either face to face or through virtual contact, so that like members could feel that, oh yes, our network is still going. Uh, Also, it is important for us to see the value in each of our network members. Yeah, this will help to make each member of our network feel valued, and they will continue to participate willingly when we have a call for a network meeting, for example. And I think the most important one that our Sonny and Tracy also mentioned is coordination. Yeah, so like active coordination and participation is important. If we have a network there, we could have funds, but if there is no active coordination, the network will not operate. So just having someone to be there to actively coordinate amongst like the different stakeholders or different members of the community, for example, is important to ensure that all is informed on what is happening, as well as all members are aware of what the network is trying to achieve and actively participate in the network. I think those are the 3 points that I think are important if we are to have a successful network, or if we want to form a new network, then that is important to have those things. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Grace. I think we see some recurring themes here from both Tracy and Grace working on the ground, and then also Watisoni working at that regional level. Networking is not just important for sharing information, but also for raising that community voice, collective voice, and having cross-sectoral collaboration so that issues that are out of the community's hands or out of the fisheries space can be, addressed. Also very important the initiative needs to come from the community. The interest has to be there from those stakeholders that wish to be a part of that network, so that ownership is there. We all see that sustainability is a problem, but I think Grace mentioned this well. Even if you have the funding, if you don't have that coordination, that active coordination, that active participation, even maintaining contact with each other, that the network won't last. So thank you so much, guys. Very valuable lessons here. We now have time for questions and answers session. So Tracy, Grace, Watisoni, please, just a couple more minutes. And we do have a question in the chat box. While everybody else is thinking of their question to ask, we'll go to the chat box. There's one here. Okay, Baptiste, do you want to just come on and ask this question yourself, or are you happy for me to go? Baptiste, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Yeah. So just my question so I'm working for the Kiwa initiatives, and we are dedicating some funding to CBFM through a few projects, and my question was related to the sustainability of those networks related to CBFM, and what we would be really interesting to get is to have an estimate of the minimum costs to maintain those networks. And my other question was, beside like the project fund to maintain those networks, is there other mechanism, like for example in your island or Solomon Island, that are used by the networks to fund the different activities of the network? So that's for you, Grace, and Tracy.
Maybe I can go first and then Tracy. So yeah, like for the case of the Solomons, in terms of cost, that's what we try to do, yeah? Trying our best to minimize the cost that we have for the network, because at the moment, the network doesn't have any funding. So it depends on us, the network partners and members, to support the network, yeah? So just things like, for instance, just lunch, for example, for if we have a meeting, just lunch for us. That's all. We don't look for like allowance or other costs. So looking at our partners to share resources. So for example, if Worldfish has a conference room, then we use that conference room instead of hiring a venue for the meeting, or we utilize the Ministry of Fisheries conference room for the meetings, for instance. So yeah, I think if we sharing of resources is very important if we are to look at minimizing the cost for a network, because that's what we don't want, is to raise the expectations of our members, as well as not like looking at the network as another burden for us. Yeah, so trying to, get the network as just part of our work, and not something that is an addition to our work. And then with funding activities, it's the same for us too, like sharing co-sharing of the cost of the network. Yeah, so for instance, if we have the ministry is giving us their conference room to meet, then that means another partner will have to fund the lunch for the meeting, for instance. I think that's how I understand your question. Sorry if I didn't cover part of the question. Thank you.
Yeah, so from New Ireland's perspective, the thing is, there is estimated yearly cost of the networking work that we do here, but I can't provide you that information right now. Maybe I can send a separate email later. But yeah, that's just because I mentioned earlier, because of the geography. The thing is, the network that we have is not does not consist of the same members, but because we're always expanding, we want to bring new people from the different areas all the time. So in this 5 times we've had the network meeting, we have had to bring people together at one place. So it's either the organization traveling to a nearest place so they can bring everybody together and have the meeting, or we just call everyone together to a certain place to have that where it's closest to where we are located. So yeah, that's all I can say about the cost and everything. So I can send that via email later, if that's all right.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. I think partnership with government is good one, like as Grace was mentioning, and yeah, I guess not raising expectation too much for the communities is good lesson.
Yeah,
Thank you, Thomas.
thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. The floor is open now. Anybody got any other questions? Please go ahead. You've got three very knowledgeable people here, so please ask them a question. Go ahead. Anyone, really.
Malo, Vito, perhaps I can take this opportunity, the chance to speak up with what it's not really something new, but it has to do mostly with what everybody was mentioning this morning. And I'd love to thank what is Sonny, Crazy, and for everybody because of what the conversation goes today. It's basically that's the reality of what is going on here in Tonga. How important the relationship between the community-based SMA, which means that we have no other stakeholders apart from the fisheries. They are the one who actually work with us. Otherwise, we won't make it further than what it is now. because the most important part of it is for everybody to be aware of the fact that SMA is the most, to me, is one of the biggest projects we ever have, especially when it's come to the ocean. And when we talk about the scaling up, there are two partners here, especially the fisheries and even the community base. Because in here, as one of you ladies mentioned, that we don't have any fund to keep it sustainable, but it's a matter of us putting our hearts into it, and especially um, that's another thing that we always make sure. And I'm talking about from our part, our community base. We try to make sure that we are connected and works closely with the other stakeholders when it's come to our SMA. And when I say other stakeholders, I'm talking about other departments of the government, like the agriculture, the health department, and extra of, and with many more. And I would say pretty much every government departments have a lot to do with us. And it's really important because when we talk about the SMA, we are not talking about the ocean itself, but we also try to make sure that land as well. And with the activities, the um, co-activities that has been done regarding the importance of the social, economic, and also environmental impact, it has to be in a close relationship. And I hope that and I believe that's one of the only reason why we are fully committed to this, because for the benefit of all. And it's quite important listening to what happened today. It's really encouraging. It's really empowering because, as I said, from a community base, actually, and that's where I am coming in from. Yeah, that's what I'm bringing in, and that's what we are doing as well. And the importance of everybody can relate to everybody, especially what they can do best, because at the end of the day, it's all combined, and that's how we connected with our. Um, to me, that's how we put all together with what can be done in order to scale up our SMA. And we are looking forward to for something that it can be, instead of an individual village or individual communities involvement, it can be more like a district, because district involvement altogether is an SMA, because they already won in the island of Ewa. And I think that that's the best way to do, because some here in Tonga now, it's the human resources. When I say human resources, it has to do with um, the ICA, or the, how can I put it? The desire or the eagerness from the youth today is not really directly with the life skill, especially with the fishing and also the farming. But what we are doing, we want to make sure, and especially with us women, we are fully committed to help out with what can be done in order to make sure our SMA will be sustainable. And not only that, there will be another project that can be somehow uh, be part of what we are doing with our SMA. For example, with the awareness of our ocean, to have a healthy one. We are doing some other kind of work, but we always mention it as a project, like make sure that we clean up the seesaw and also the plastic from land. With the climate change challenges, we have to make sure we do this in order to combine this whole thing and make it as a beautiful outcome, more like a healthy environment for the community, but especially for Tonga as well. Last night we had a meeting between the, okay, I don't want to take up the time, but that's my put in. Malo.
Sorry, Mele, thank you so much for the Tongan perspective. I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry. But thank you for sharing that Tongan perspective. I think you've highlighted some of the commonalities between our Pacific countries. I see, Kennedy, you've been putting some stuff in the chat box. And Ada, would you guys like to, Kennedy, you go first. Would you like to share? Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Well, just listening to uh, yeah, some of the challenges and some of the you know way forward. Just my own understanding from some of the work that I've been doing in other sectors. Yes, working with the government is very, very important for government of is the government of the day, and I feel like to have the government to actually take the lead in terms of communication networking because good partners come and go, but the government is the technology there. So I think having them to take the lead and we support the work that they're doing will be it will be sustainable in terms of programming into the community because they have the biggest network in the country and they do, especially like in Solomon, they do have the ministries of fisheries in all the provinces here, and they do have communities. They do have a good contact to all the coastal communities, and they are partners to actually work in different provinces. So the government actually has the the overall community. I would say a network to all the different communities. So I feel that I think it's good to have the community. I mean, the government to actually take the lead in terms of communication and we support the work they've been doing. Um, yeah, and um, I think it was um, coming from someone who was saying something about meeting lunch and all that. Yeah, I think it's for me. I feel like it's just part of our job every day, day in day out. Yes, meeting is very very important to actually if you just actually help give our time to actually attend meetings, all that, and then we can, because um, this budget of we just, I mean, budget of this extra budget will actually take away um, most of those funds that the community needs for programming. So if we actually uh, put all the effort, you know, we are supporting the government in terms of, meetings, networking, sharing ideas to not only to like coming together in one room, but to internet, sharing to the networking communication to yeah to the cloud. I think that will cut some cost as well. I think thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Ken. You're a bit muffled, but I think you were talking about local level government and getting it embedded. Maybe I'll ask Tracy to talk about some of the work that they were doing with local level government. Tracy, do you mind telling us a bit about that?
Yes, so I agree with Kennedy's point. I think I can't hear him properly, but I saw he wrote something here. So what we did with the local government people here, especially the fisheries officers, is we were mentoring them, and whilst mentoring them, they were also a part of this. They were like the vital people in the network because they knew their areas very well. And what was done was that we supported them with information most of the time and assisted them with developing their work plans so they can go out into their LLGs and do their work. So they have um, included the network activities into their plans. So what Kennedy is mentioning here is also because of the work that Seed Chains has assisted us with the campaign and yeah, producing information that assisted this provincial government and also other partners who were involved in the network to carry out training, to run trainings with champions so they can reach out to communities which they know have not received information about um, um, best ways of fishing practices, best fishing practices. So that's when they went out. So what partners on the ground like WCS have assisted local level government is through mentoring of the provincial fisheries officers, and they were really good with the work. Especially, I think if Kennedy can share in the chat box, they have been very active in delivering um, mainly awareness to communities that we did not think they would go, but because of the support from WCS and Seed Change as partners on the ground to the network. Very, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Also some extra valuable lessons there by involving not just national, subnational government, but local level government too. I see some other people in the chat here talking. Please feel free to share it with the group by you can join the chat, not just the chat box. Ada, would you like to share or Neomai? We even have Nigel on here. And Anissa, please, you guys can also speak up and join us too. Thank you. We'll stop here in about we'll give another like 10 minutes and then we'll wrap up. So please feel free to share. Thank you so much.
Terry, I think there's a hand raise there from, sorry, not a virtual hand raise, but a physical hand raise there from Serumo there from Fiji. Might want to give the opportunity for him to share.
Seru, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, Mbula everyone. Thank you so much for the speakers. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Thank you. Yep.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Mbula once again to everyone here this morning. I really fully support and the speakers this morning. We do face all the challenges, the same challenges. I do agree to the speakers that we need to network and coordinate. This is important. This is very important. We cannot, our community reps, we cannot work alone in this field. We need to coordinate and involve other partners. I do agree with Tracy that we need to involve government stakeholders. And I also do agree with Emma. We need to connect to the government stakeholders. For a typical example, we here in Fiji, and my local partners, they can agree that for every forum that we do attend, I usually bring this as it's a bit of a matrix that we for us to work together. We have certain government institutions like the fisheries, we have the marine, we have the police, we have the environment, and we have the local communities, which we can work together hand in hand. The community, we have the knowledge, the traditional knowledge, but those other government institutions, they have the scientific knowledge and as well as the funding. By coordinating, by working together, we can all share the resources that we have, like what Grace from the Solomon Islands are facing, that they have very minimum resources. They don't have the funding. By this way, they can share the resources that they have financially, and the knowledge, the scientific knowledge that they have, that can fully support the communities in managing our resources. That is the first point. The second one is that I'm listening to the speakers that at a time when a project ends, networking also ends. What we are trying here locally in our community is that as we move on with managing our fisheries sector, in a way, we are trying to instill in the community at that level, if we can move on from conservation and move on of trying to create or establish into business from their resources to turn them into income generating projects. That is a point that I would like to raise. The 2 points only, Terry, that I'd like to share this morning. And once again, thank you so much from Mali Island in Fiji Group. Thank you.
Vinaka Seru, thank you for that valuable intervention. Fiji has a long history with the Flamin Network, and it merits a revival, as Neomai said, but also your point on not just sharing information, but also the importance of livelihood. We can share on ways forward for communities. Okay, anybody else has some intervention or some questions? Now's your chance.
Yeah, Terry, can I say some?
Hi,
Hello.
Nigel, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. Aloha. My name is Nigel. I'm in Hawaii, and I work for Kua Aino Ulua Wamo. We're a backbone network. In the chat, I put in some thoughts about how money can, and how we see money in some instances changing relationships within the community. So just kind of urging that to us as we bring these new things that our communities maybe didn't have, to be extra mindful of the capacity needed to disperse it and share the resource appropriately. But as Seru was talking, I think I was thinking more about some of the effective relationships that we've seen that enable our networks to go on. And recently, we talk about working with our governments, but hoping that the interest isn't only from the community to the government side, but the government back to the community. And so having a mutual relationship where both parties are excited, both parties are getting stuff out of it, can enable our networks to continue and be sustained and build the trust, And so, again, just appreciation for all the points that were raised by each of the speakers, and appreciate this space. So thank you, Terry.
Thanks, Nigel. We have time for some more. Any other points anybody wants to make? Thank you for those interventions. And thank you for the reminder, Nigel, about financing. I'll leave it open for one more comment, and then I'll hand over to June. I just want to thank the speakers. Ada, thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah, I think Nigel already mentioned what I wanted to share with everyone in regards to my comment there. I think also agree with what Anissa also said in her chat as well. Yeah, I think my point in the connection between the government and also our people in the local communities and CSO, I feel that, yeah, it's a two-way relationship. from my chat, I think you'll realize that I say that the proactive connection is supposed to come from the government as well. This is because of our context in Solomon Islands, where communities are, far from one another. So, yeah, it's good if they can take the more proactive step in connecting with our people in the local communities, or these are community-based organizations, or even youth groups or women down in the local communities, as well as civil society organizations. And I feel that this is very important because this network is the enabling factor, for sustainability. In order to help or encourage everyone to continue the good work everyone is doing, wherever we are in whatever context, it's important that we support each other with the resources and continue to encourage each other and share through the networks. So yes, and yes, also acknowledging all the existing networks that we already have on the ground, through our tribes, through our people in the villages, and all our leaders. So yeah, make use of whatever resources that we have already, and the connection needs to come together. And everyone needs to be part of, working hard to ensure that this network continues. Because after all, this is what will ensure sustainability in all our work and encourage us to continue the good work. And I also agree with what Sarah said. Sometimes we really need the funds too, because, in the community, the meetings can be like the one that we're having now in Zoom, and it's very important that we get important information. So of course we need a bit of money to sustain whatever ways in which we can communicate and sustain the network. That's it. That's my contribution, Terry, but I really enjoy this meeting. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Ada. That's one of the key takeaways I think from this overall webinar is using existing networks. We're not creating anything new. Sometimes these networks already exist, and it's wise to use them. I think good to bring up, like there's a youth network already existing, a church network. So thank you for that valuable addition. Even the tribal tribal networks. Okay, I think we've come to the end, unless anybody quickly raises their hand. I would like to thank Grace, Tracy, and Watisoni, such valuable information, and thank you for coming on as our expert speakers today. Please feel free to reach out if you wish to know more from our speakers. I'm sure they would be happy to share with you. I'm now going to hand over to June. We hardly see June in the front. She's always doing the hard yards in the back. So I'm just going to bring her to the front to share some other information. June, thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Hi, everyone. Yorana. So I will just share my screen to you guys. Yes. Okay, so Yaurana everyone, for those who don't know me yet, my name is June and I work as the community manager for the CBFM program. So my role is to support everything related to communication, content creation, and especially community engagement. So like helping us stay connected between events, highlighting your stories, and growing this amazing network of practitioners across the Pacific. And speaking of community, SPC have created a dedicated CBFM Facebook group, and it's made just for you. So whether you want to share a field success, ask a question, raise a challenge, or simply post a few photos, this is really your space to connect, to reflect, and inspire one another. So please don't be shy, join in, post, comment, tag a colleague, and the more we engage, the stronger we grow together. So I dropped the link in the chat. Feel free to join and post anytime. Let me share the link now. And also, please don't forget to visit the CBFM online platforms. So there you will find all the tools and resources shared in the webinars, thematic section on key CBFM topics, updates from past events and training, and all the materials you can reuse or adapt for your community. So also I'll share the link in the chat. There you go. And finally, to help us improve future webinars, and we would love to hear your thoughts. So I'll also share a short feedback form. It takes just a few minutes, and it really helps us make these webinar sessions more useful for you. So I'll share the link in the chat box. And finally, thank you again for being here, and let's keep the momentum going and continue building this amazing CBFM community together. And with that, I'll now hand it over to Ivory to close our session and wrap up with final words. Thanks again, everyone. Maruru.
Thank you, June. So to those of you who are part of the CBFM Community of Practice in the Facebook group, you'll see all those beautiful posts and that are shared weekly, and that's from June's very hard work. So thank you, June, for that. I think just to wrap up, and I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you to the speakers for sharing those very rich lessons learned and experiences from Papua New Guinea. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Grace from Solomon Islands, and thank you, Watisoni. Thank you to Terry as well for moderating the session, and for all of you that have provided valuable inputs and have commented, sharing your lessons. That was a very rich discussion on network. So as we all agree that we need networking, we need to raise the voices of people in the communities to ensure that whatever issues they have is addressed. And we, with all our work, we are supporting to ensure that this is done. So I think just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. We'll send out the meeting invite and more updates for the next webinar soon. So thank you so much, everyone. And please feel free to join the Facebook community of practice if you haven't done so. And please stay in contact. So thank you so much, everyone. Wishing you a very good and a blessed day. Thank you.